Hello. It is Wednesday. If you're on the West Coast, you're probably wondering why it's not noon, but this is Courier Live for a very special Twilio SIGNAL Conf edition. So we're a little earlier than normal, but that's because we got a great guest from Twilio, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Well, thank you, Aydrian. I'm Lizzie. I'm a developer evangelist at Twilio, and I've known Aydrian since 2017. Wow, that's pretty long in tech years, it seems. At least
yeah. I remember you giving your first Twilio pitch at Queens.js. You were there with Sam Agnew, and he was like, "You know what? We just hired Lizzie, and we're gonna let her do this." That's it's been what, like 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to have you on, especially during Twilio Signal. Thanks for fitting us into your schedule.
Thank you.
And we're going to go through a conference application. So, you know, with the way the times are being that they are, everything has gone virtual. But I think that this can also work for whenever we go back in person. But being able to kind of collect information and distribute information to people during these conferences is kind of tricky, whether it's virtual or in person. And so we have put together like a nice little app that we can use to engage with our, I guess, conference attendees, the people who stop by. So let's get into that. Woo, okay. Oh, I opened to the wrong screen. That's okay. So one thing that we did at Courier is we put together a Twilio Signal landing page. And so we wanted to kind of direct the traffic to something that's going to be a little bit more tailored to what information we want to show off at Signal. And so because we integrate with Twilio and we integrate with SendGrid, we wanted to make sure that that was front and forward. But if you scroll down, and actually let me show off, you can check out this page by going to courier.com/signal.
I love that.
Yeah.
I keep on going there. Go there.
That's where all our traffic's coming from. Now we know. But if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see information about these Signal sessions that we're doing as part of Courier Live. So not only do we have the one that we're doing right now with Lizzie, but we have a fireside chat happening on October 9th with Pat Malatak, who was the former VP of product at Twilio. So we're going to have a nice fireside chat with him and Troy. But you can see that there is a button down here that says RSVP. And when you click that, that's going to launch a Typeform form that you can fill out. And it will allow you to get information about the sessions, information about Courier, and our white paper, and give you the chance to get a discount code. So if you want to use Courier and you want a little discount, we can hook you up with that. So let's take a look. Before we dive into what the form looks like, let's kind of take a look at an overview of what's going on. So I have a nice little flow diagram that I created in Miro. Every time I send out this flow diagram, everybody wants to know what I created it in Miro.
Let us know in the chat if you've used it before. I'd never seen this before. I was like kind of mind blown. Like
it was easy to use too. I basically took like one of their example flowcharts and I copied and pasted it around, and it ended up looking nice, like the curves of the arrows and everything. I was telling one of the coworkers, I was like, I make these flowcharts and they just look so ugly, and he's like, I can help you with that. And then I show it to him and he's like, what? It looks fine. I'm like, okay, great.
So this copied and pasted. So
yeah, it's copy and paste. It's fine. So let me kind of zoom in here. So we start with a Typeform, and we're going to take a look at that here in a minute. Actually, let's go ahead. We'll do this as we're going through. So we give you a Typeform, and then there's a submit action. So let's take a look at what's going on with the Typeform. So this is a very basic Typeform. We're asking for, your first name, your last name, the company you work for, your business email address, Yeah. Cell phone number. And so this is going to be important because this is what we're going to use to distribute that discount code that we were talking about. So we ask for your phone number. And then, like all forms, we ask if you'd like to be kept up to date with Courier so we can, send you some emails legally. And that's really it. So this is standard conference stuff, right? This is the information that you want to collect in some way or another if you're sponsoring a conference. And because we're using Typeform, there's a couple advantages we get. One, we get a nice little database of everybody who filled this out. So that's great if you want to export it and put it into maybe your marketing platform, what have you. But also, we can connect it to a webhook. So whenever somebody submits this, it will do a post to an endpoint. I've been using Typeform a lot, especially on interfaces that are just forms. So instead of spinning up like a React app or Next.js app, something that's just a form with a submit, I just build it in Typeform and I use this webhook. Because then I don't have to worry about like a database to hold the information. Typeform will do that for you. Yeah, and then you can do programmatic things with like the answers, and that's what we're going to do. So if you're in Typeform, I won't go too deep into this because I will be having a session with Nico from Typeform. We'll dive deep into the cool things we can do with Typeform, and then and what we can send over to Courier to have some fun. But we use the what is this, Connect? If you go to Connect and you go to webhooks, you can set up a webhook, and we have set one up going to an endpoint in a glitch app.
I think that's the same logo for a webhook as I've seen in the Slack documentation.
I think that's the like official logo for webhooks. Like we use it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How about that?
And I mean, before now, I did not know that there was an official logo for webhooks. Yeah. So taking a look at our flowchart. So we're here. Let's say the person filled out the form. They've hit submit, and it's going to go to this glitch application. So we've got this /Typeform endpoint. And what it's responsible for doing is first creating a recipient in Courier. If you want to send messages using Courier, you need to have a recipient. And that recipient is basically an ID and then some profile information. And the profile information is what tells you how the message is going to be sent. So we're going to create that recipient, and then we're going to add it to lists. Lists is a new feature from Courier that allows you to send to multiple recipients using a single API request. So we're going to go ahead and take this opportunity to add them to lists. So let's add them to an event list. Maybe after the event, you want to send out a message that said, hey, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget you can sign up for free here, yada, yada, yada. So that's a great way to be able to send that message to all of the people who filled it out. And then one thing that we didn't mention when we went through the Typeform is a lot of times when you do in-person events, you have raffles. Do you do raffles at Twilio at events?
Depends on the event.
Yeah.
I personally am a fan of raffles, but I think it depends on who's there too.
What's your favorite raffle item that you've raffled off?
We've had Women in STEM postcards, raffled off a Woman in NASA Lego.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's see now. It's been a while since we've had physical events, so I'm like,
it does seem like forever. I think my favorite thing that I've raffled off, and it's been through many companies, but the Raspberry Pis are always really popular. And then one time we were able to raffle off a Switch, which right now I think that would be darn near impossible because just trying to get your hands on a Switch is crazy.
We've only given them out as like hackathon prizes, and like those were expensive prizes. That was like
that's a big prize. Yeah. Because you have to do like for hackathon prizes, you pretty much have to like times it by 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like raffles like kind of smaller too.
Yeah. So we could easily add a raffle sign up question to this form. So would you like to sign up for the raffle? yes or no. And if they select yes, we can add them to a raffle list. And then that makes it really easy to send a notification to just the people who signed up for the raffle, telling who the winner is. And so that's what this kind of like conditional is here, just an extra way to use a list, so we can keep who's using the who entered the raffle. And then the last thing that happens is it forwards all of this information onto Courier. So let's take a look at this. For this endpoint, I am using a glitch project. So I really like using glitch for demos because it's great for someone to come go to this site and remix it and just start building it yourself. So at the end of this, if you want to build your own project using Twilio SIGNAL, Twilio, SendGrid, Courier, and Typeform, we've got the back end all ready for you. And I might mention while this is loading that this is all the code that we had to write for this application. And let me pop up. If you want to take a look at this glitch app, you can just go to glitch.com/tilde courier-signal-conf.
How would you describe glitch, Adrian, if like someone hadn't used it before?
Yeah, glitch is it's kind of like a code sandbox. It's you can run Python in it, but I think most people use like Node.js. So if you want to stand up an application really quickly, the IDE is in the website. It's also really great for collaboration. So if you want to stand up like a sample app, or even I've seen people host their personal websites inside Glitch. It's a great way to try out new code and then learn, because it has handy community features where you can highlight a piece of code that's not working and raise your hand. And if there's somebody out there, watching on the homepage, they can jump into your app and help you out. So I think that's really cool. I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh.
I didn't know they did Python.
Never mind. Yeah, there's I'll have to show you. I have a Django app that I created in Glitch, and it will run Python, but you kind of have to find the right starter to get you set up. All right, so here is the application. It's a simple Express, Node.js and Express app. So there's some information here. We do have environment variables. Those will be blanked out if you remix it. So sorry, you're not going to get my auth token for Twilio or Courier. But it just there's some information. Like I said, very simple Express.js application. It's got a route for Typeform. So this is going to accept the webhooks from Typeform. And then one we'll talk about in a little bit is a route for Twilio. So turns out sometimes Twilio will send you webhooks. So let's take a look at the route for Typeform. We can kind of see what's going on based on what we just looked at in this flowchart. So we've got this nice little helper function that's going to extract the answers. The way that the payload comes over from Typeform is interesting. And so with Nico's help, I created this little function that's going to help us pull out the answers that we're looking for. So here is the route. It's mapped to /Typeform. The first thing that we're doing is verifying the form signature. So that's going to let us know that the request came from Typeform, which is always good to do. In case, man in the middle, person in the middle comes in and tries to send you a fake post. They're probably not going to be able to get through this because it uses a signature that you set up with Typeform to validate the body of the request. And so what I did is I just created some middleware that I could throw in and have that done. And if that passes, it's going to go on and execute this function. So like with most webhooks, they're looking for a response of 200. So that way they won't retry sending the payload. And we use this helper function. So if it's a form response, there are other event types that are supported, but what we're interested in is a form response. We can pull out the answers from the form. So just first name, last name, company, email, phone number. And then I pulled out is raffle entered and set it to false just so we can use that later. And one thing that I didn't mention is you can set these values in the Typeform. We go back to create. So each item here has, let's pull it out. Okay, has a question reference. And so I just went in there and set that to something human readable. You can see by default, they end up being like a nice GUID that everyone can understand. But you are able to edit those and pass over something nice. So that's what I did here. So I'm pulling out that information here, and then I'm going to use it to create a courier profile. So this gets saved on our side in our database and gives you all the information that you need. And we have a nice little kind of spec for putting that out. So you have given name, family name, name. To be able to send an email, you need to give it an email. To be able to send a text, we need the phone number. And then we have some custom fields that we threw in there. So the company that they entered, and then the Typeform ID.
Is the custom section the only one that like you can edit?
So yeah, the custom, this like custom object, you can put whatever you want inside there. So if you were grabbing more information that didn't really fit inside of our spec, then you can just throw the fields in there. And then once we have the profile created, we can just move on and subscribe them to the lists. So we have the Courier Node SDK helping us out here as well. So we had the courier.replace profile going for the profile. And now we can subscribe. And that's basically, we just use the name of the list and the recipient ID that we just created. And so we have the top level list. So everybody gets added to courier.events.signal. And then we check to see if they entered the raffle. And if they did, we'll add them to courier.events.signal.raffle. And we do that in a way because we support pattern matching with our lists. So if we wanted to send, let's say, to all Courier events, maybe one message to everybody who's ever been to a Courier event, we can just do courier.events.**. If we wanted to do something where we send only to the raffle entry, the people who entered the raffles at events, we could do something like courier.events.star.raffle. And Courier will pull all of the recipients out of those lists into one big list. So there's a lot that you can do with lists. We just did a live about it. And we have some nice documentation in help.courier.com to walk you through all of that. And then last but not least, we're just sending the notification. So we're awaiting a courier.send. We're using an event ID. Here I named it signal notification. You can name this whatever you like, and we can map it to the notification inside Courier. And then we pass it the recipient ID and then the data. So there's two types of data that we're going to be using. One is the profile data. So that's stored inside the profile. But then there's data that's unique to the notification. So, you know, if we want to say Dear Lizzie, we're going to want to pull that from her profile information instead of from the data. It's just a different place to be able to access it.
Yes, we do love personalizing notifications and messages.
Right?
Makes people feel good. Like not like it's like a template.
Yeah. And so now we can actually put together a notification that will be sent based on this. Just quickly going back, we have our send to Courier event. And so this is going to come in and look for the Courier signal _ notification. And we have a couple things that we can do. So we're always going to send an email. But if they entered the raffle, we want to make sure that that raffle includes a confirmation section. And I can show you how to conditionally do that. But if they gave us the phone number, then that's when we're going to send the code for the discount. And we'll pick that up here in a minute. So let's look at the notification that handles this. And so we're going to go into our Courier account. So I have a couple notifications that I created for SIGNAL Conf. we're going to look at the form response. This is a notification that is mapped to that signal_notification event. And you can see that we have an email set up. And so we have a couple channels. We have email, and then we have SMS. And this is all in the same notification. And what we've chosen to do is say always send notifications to email. So anybody who signs up for the form is going to get an email confirmation for it. And we set up the form like so, or we set up the email like so. We have drag and drop blocks that you can create. And so if you wanted to add a new text block, you can throw that in there.
I love that.
Yeah. And then you can edit it. I'll go ahead and create the block for the raffle confirmation. So I'll say, thank you for entering the raffle. Stay tuned to see who wins. Okay. And so drag and drop blocks, we have personalization. So you can see we're pulling out the given name right here in the subject line. We're also pulling it out in the greeting. I don't think we're using personalization anywhere else, but we're putting information about like how to get to our sessions. There's a nice link to creating a free account, how to schedule a demo if you're interested in talking to our team. And then look, it's signed by Troy, our founder, our CEO and founder.
That's pretty cool.
He loves interacting with the community. But now, something that since I just added this block, we don't want this to show up for everybody who fills out the form. So what I can do is I can say add a filter. And I'll add, so from the data, you can see here that we're passing over, this is raffle entered. I'm going to copy that so I don't misspell it. And that's going to be a Boolean value to whether or not they entered the raffle. And so we only want that section to show up if they entered. So we can say data.property, and we're going to hide this block when the is raffle entered is not equal to true.
I love that design.
And then when we save it, we can see like, well, we'll preview it in a minute. We can see that shows up based on that info. And so you can create conditionals based on lots of different types of data. Actually, we can go ahead and go into the preview. So we can see what it's going to look like when it's sent. This is our Courtney response. She entered the raffle. Here is our fake response where I just put one together. So this is Stan. And he entered the raffle. So you can see it down here. But we have a fake response with no raffle. And when it regenerates, we go down to the bottom. And we can see that the raffle response is not there. So really easy to build these notifications using drag and drop blocks, hide and show things based on data that you pass over or information from the profile. And so that's the email. And that's always going to show. So we'll go back to design. So that's always going to send. If you noticed in the form, it was a required field. Now, the phone number. Sorry, I should probably mention these emails are being sent using SendGrid. So if we go into the channel, let's talk about that. We have our different integrations, and so Courier integrates with many different providers, and you can put them in. So here's SendGrid, and we have this configured using our with a from address with an API key that has the right permissions, and that's all you have to do. So you just need to make our API call instead of having to worry about SendGrids. All right. And so the second channel that we have is SMS. And if we go into SMS, we can see that we are using Twilio. And we have that configured with our account ID, our message service ID, all of those good things that you use in your API.
That's cool. Like it's an integration.
Yeah.
It's kind of like built-in partnership, of course.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
other integrations do you like?
What
other integrations do you use fairly often?
Let's take a look at that real quick. So if we go over here into integrations, you can say currently installed and in this account, we're using SendGrid and we're using Twilio, but we have a whole catalog. We have Africa's Talking for sending text messages to Africa, Expo for sending push notifications, SES, Amazon SES is another email, Firebase for push notifications, lots of different things. We have a webhook provider, which I've used to do really cool things with IoT. So I've made a notification, a light turning on and off. We have Slack. Slack is a great notification that I like to use, where you can, instead of sending them over email or SMS, you can send them to your Slack application to post to a channel or a direct message.
That's a lot.
So, yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do with Slack because we support BlockKit. And we're doing some really cool things to allow you to do like dynamic BlockKit and things like that. So let's go back to our notification. And so we have SMS, and we have put this together. Oh, everyone's going to see the code. Well, there it goes. But you can get an SMS message. We can reuse blocks. So if we created them, they show up over here in a shared library, and that will be sent out. And so what we're doing here is we are saying always send the email and then send to the best of these channels. We only have SMS. So normally this would always send, this would try to always send to SMS. But in your profile, you have to have an email address to be able to send the email and a phone number to be able to send to an SMS. So what we do is we treat this like a priority queue. If email was down here, if we would look into your profile and say, is there an email address? Yes, we would send it and then we would stop. If there wasn't, we would go down and say, is there a phone number? And if there was, we would send that out using a text and then we would stop. To be able to send out these messages with the same notification, we're using the always send to and the best of. So if you have provided a phone number on the in that form, then it will automatically send you this message. So one API call, you could possibly get 2 messages depending on how you filled out that form. And now for the fun part. So let's assume that you filled out the form, you gave your phone number, and you were sent this message. You can see, if we look at the preview here, it's a text message, so of course it's going to be text. But this last section is, would you like to speak with our team for a quick demo? Reply yes to schedule a time. So this is where fun with Twilio comes in. Lizzie, what happens whenever you reply to a Twilio text message?
You mean like the technical aspect?
Yeah.
Like when you text a Twilio phone number, it sends, oh my gosh.
Oh, I put her on the spot. Oh, I feel bad now.
No, I always talk about this in demos, but it's been a while. Okay. Okay, how does it work?
Well, while she's thinking, let me tell you what we hope for what we want to happen with this. So if you have the phone number, we're going to send an SMS with the code, and that's going to go to the SMS client. If you're using iPhone, it will go to messages. If you're using Android, it will go to, I don't know what that's called because I don't use it, but whatever your SMS client is. And then it gives you the ability to respond. And so we've already prompted them to respond with yes if they want to contact our team to talk about Courier. And so if they respond with yes, we're going to head back over to Glitch and take a look at our webhook. And basically, we have a Twilio webhook that's going to collect the response information and then send that back to Courier to process it. So let's take a look at our Glitch app. So the other route that we created was a Twilio route. And so it's the glitch address /Twilio. And so if you respond to a text message for Twilio, by default, I think it's going to go nowhere, right? But you have the option of going in and saying to make a post to an endpoint through their webhooks. And then you can programmatically respond based on that. I think there's also another option where you can forward it to a phone number.
Yes.
So like if there's someone you don't like at the company, you can just say, just send all the responses to this person. Yeah. They'll deal with it.
Phone number masking is pretty common. Sometimes I give people like a Twilio number and like it forwards to mine, and then you can text that number again, and like it's like the middleman.
Yeah, I think that's how I talk to my my personal trainer. So I use something called Future, and it's like, would you like to talk to your trainer? And then it just like shoots me out to a text message, and we talk back and forth. So yeah, but we're going to programmatically respond, and so that requires an endpoint, and just very similar to how we set up the one for Typeform, but I think this one's a little less involved. We are going to create the route. The Twilio NPM package has a nice little helper function for validating the webhook. So I didn't have to write my own middleware for this one. So for the second argument here, I just said webhook protocol HTTPS. That's something that you need to add if you're using something like Glitch, where the HTTPS is kind of masked. So like internally it's HTTP, but externally it's HTTPS. This is what we had to do to get it to work, but this will validate based on the auth token that's stored inside your .m file, whether or not the request came from Twilio. So always trying to like add that security in there if we can. And so if that passes, then we're going to go on and we're going to pull the from. So this from is the phone number of the person who texted back. And then we'll pull back the body, which is the message of the text. And so what I did here, because I want you to not have to change the code if they decide that they want to add another like option or change it from like yes to yup or something like that. You know, that's localization, right? Yes, yup. I wanted to make sure that we didn't have to go back into the code and change that. And we gave people using Courier the flexibility to set this up how they like. And so my idea of doing it was to send to a new event. So we've got a Signal SMS response. The recipient ID, we have to kind of create a new one. So I created one that's SMS underscore and then the from number. The recipient ID is just a string, but hopefully it's a unique string. We're not storing this recipient in our profile, so it's kind of like a one-time use thing. And then we're passing the phone number in the profile. So whenever we do a send, we can pass profile information into the send. If there's profile information stored, it will merge it together. But this is just a quick way to be able to send a message back to the person who responded. And then for the data, I create a token. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking the body, so the response message, and I'm splitting it on a space, grabbing that first item and uppercasing it. So this should, if they responded with yes, it should just be capital YES. And then we can do things with that inside Courier. And then just for fun, I'm also sending the whole response body, which is nice. If you need to troubleshoot something, you can go into the Courier logs and see all of this information that came over. So like if you get a lot of responses but no text messages coming out, you can go in and see like what it is that they're actually sending. It's like, oh, they sent no, and we don't handle that. Or they sent yep, and we don't handle that. And then finally, an important part to responding to webhooks. Do you want to talk about this part, Lizzie? What you need to respond with?
Okay. Here's the thing. When a message comes into Twilio either via SMS or voice, that's kind of like the middleman. Twilio will either send a post request, which is probably more common, to some URL, like a webhook, that probably points at your app. So for Python, I use ngrok. For JavaScript, Express. Or you can use Twilio Functions, which is like the service environment for Node apps.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot that you have Twilio Functions. So like I said, the glitch app is great for demo purposes and allowing people to like remix it and putting the code out there. But you could do this all inside Twilio by spinning up a couple Twilio functions to handle this.
Yes. And we also have Twiml bins for Twilio XML, Twilio markup language.
Okay.
So that's like functions for Twiml, and your app should generate Twiml. So you have helper libraries for different languages, but honestly, like it will all get turned into Twiml. Like you can use a say or like a dial to start a phone call from another phone call, message for messaging. You can also write like Twiml via JavaScript.
Nice. Yeah. So whenever I first wrote this, Express has a kind of a helper function called send status. And what that will do is it will set the response status and then do a send. But with everything that I was sending, I was getting an OK message responding to me on my SMS. And come to find out, so as like a shortcut, you could respond with Twiml or just a string, and Twilio will text that back. But I didn't want that to happen. I wanted Courier to be able to handle the sending the message back. And so I just did send status 200. I just want to acknowledge that I accepted and processed the response, and I'm going to let Courier send it. But turns out what happens is whenever you use send status, it does a res.status200.send OK. And so that OK was being sent back to me after every one, which was interesting. So if you're doing something like this, it's really important that you do res.status200.send and don't provide it with anything. And then that kind of closes the loop for Twilio, and it doesn't send you any extra stuff. All right. So this is all that we need to do when we're accepting that webhook from Twilio. So pretty easy, pretty low code. And I think that we put in the flexibility that would be needed to allow changes to this without having to come back to the code. How far did we get on that demo? Okay. So yeah, so we handled the webhook with this /Twilio route. We sent the information to Courier. And then we have another Courier notification that I created, signal_SMS_response. And what that's going to do is check to see if it was the expected word or keyword. And if it was, we're going to send the response message. So let's go over to Courier and take a look at that notification.
I love these colors. I love that.
Yes, I made a special Signal Conf tag for my notifications so I could find them. And I went and I looked up the Twilio red. So if there's any Twilio branding people out there, this is the correct hexadecimal color for your red. So keeping it on brand. So I created this Signal SMS response. And we'll see that it is much simpler. So we have just the response. So great. Find a time with our team here, and it's a link to our Calendly. So we've kind of closed the loop on that SMS message. This is the message that we send, but we need to remember that we only want to send it if they sent the right token. And so what we can do is we have the channels. This is set up as send the best of. And I added a conditional at the channel level. You can see we're using Twilio again. So we look at the conditions. We can grab that token that we passed in with data, and if it's not equal to yes, then we're going to disable the channel. So we will have essentially sent to a notification with no channels. And so the message will not go through. If it is, then we will proceed with sending the message. Now, if we decided we wanted to add another token that we would accept, we could add another line here. And we can switch this. I think this is Lizze's favorite part, to an or. And we can say if the token is not equal to, yep. So there's our second one. And so with those two tokens, it will activate this channel for this notification. So we can just close that. And then here we have just a regular text block. And if we wanted to handle 2 different keywords, we could put a condition on this one, and we could say hide it when the token is not equal to yes. And then we could just go through and add another text block, add a conditional, and say hide this one if the token's not equal to yup. And so we have two different responses in the same notification. Based on the token, it's going to, if it's one of the preferred tokens, it's going to show up. It's going to actually send the message. And then based on the token, it's going to send whichever text blocks we have set up for the conditionals. And that's the full life cycle of the application.
I'm still stuck. I've never used Courier before, but I will after this.
It's great.
The whole, I guess, a lot of different details really seem to like make your life easier, make developers' lives easier, make builders' lives easier.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not just about the developers, because as you can see, there were just 2 routes that we had to write, and there wasn't a lot to them. And so we kind of shift the power back to the creators and the notifications. So a lot of times, they're designers, they might not know how to code. They might. We have a lot of customers who can do, coding and the designing, but we put a lot of the power back into their hands. So if they wanted to create a new notification, so let's say, they no longer wanted to send this form response, but they didn't want to delete it, they could create a new notification and then map it to that signal notification event and switch it over. Where like as a developer, I would be like, okay, I want to set this as an environment variable. So that way I don't have to change that code. I can go in and change the environment variable. But we've kind of pulled that into Courier because you can go down into our settings and look at the events and then just create a new mapping. And so here's all you can see. Here's our signal notification, and it's mapped to the signal form response. Once you change that, Courier will start sending to that other notification. So I guess the last thing to do is to show off how this worked in the logs. So do you have
any data on?
Yeah.
Like,
do you want to fill out the form?
Yes.
Do you have the well, you know where our landing page is. Do you want to go to the landing page?
Yes.
Click on RSVP. So this is all set up based on what she fills out. It's going to send the notification whether or not she responds to the SMS, and we'll see those requests come into the Courier logs. And so if I go down, I'm going to filter on the formers. And so we can see everything that's come in for this form. But this is kind of, your detailed information about the APIs that are being requested in Courier. You can see a lot of different information, anything that's being passed over from the API. So any of the data that comes in, I mentioned that I just put the whole text response into the data, and I know that I could go in here and see all that information. You can also pull information out of the profile, so you'll see access to that.
I just got my coupon code for discounted pricing on all Courier plans.
That's right. Once you leave the free account, that's really going to be helpful. But with the free account, just signing up, you get 10,000 messages from Courier a month, which is really great. And I use it a lot, and I haven't hit my 10,000. So all my demos. Oops. Oh, I like accidentally mashed the keyboard. So I see Lizzie. So a signal form response came in, and we can take a look at this. So we have a nice summary, and we can see that it was routed to Twilio and SendGrid. We've got the information that came in. So the recipient ID that was created based on that Twilio webhook, not Twilio, the Typeform webhook, and whether or not she entered the raffle. She did not, because that question doesn't exist. and what event to send it to. We mapped the notification to the ID of that form response. Cool. We loaded information. Probably shouldn't have showed off your phone number there. We'll fix it in post. So it loaded the profile, and then we can actually see what got rendered and what got sent to her. So you can see basically anything that we did in that preview, it shows up in here. So you see the rendered text message. You get a response from Twilio saying that it was sent. You can see the rendered version of the email. So this is what she sees in her email. And then you get information about the send from SendGrid. You get a delivery confirmation for Twilio. So that's saying that the text actually made it to her. You can set it up to get delivery confirmation for SendGrid. That's little extra steps. You need to make sure that the API key has that available. And then with SendGrid, that's actually an extra thing that you need to pay for delivery confirmation. And then we can even see that she opened the email. Can we see what she opened it on? Apple WebKit, Chrome, Safari. So it looks like she opened it on her phone.
You love that.
And then if she clicked on any of the links inside there, we would also see events show up for that. So that's the app.
Could you go back? Why was this? What makes some of the circles like colored green differently, like different percentages?
Yeah, so we have kind of like a status flow. We did a session where Tony came on and walked us through all of that. So there's kind of like the life cycle of a notification. And so it starts off being queued, and then it's sent, which means that Courier has sent it to the providers. And then it's been delivered. That's part of that delivered confirmation. So some places actually report back that it's been delivered like to your email box. So the circle gets half filled in. If they open it, then we've got a 3/4 circle. And then if they clicked on anything, then we kind of consider that like that full circle engagement. So not only has the email or the message been sent and delivered and they opened it, but they actually engaged on it by clicking. And so that fills in that circle. And so this is just kind of how we're representing like the different statuses in that life cycle.
That's very smart. I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so this was the application. It's fairly simple to remix the back end and kind of build this yourself. I think it's very helpful. I feel like every job that I'm in, I do some sort of version of this. So when I was at SparkPost, we did a raffle app that allowed you to enter an email by sending an email, and then did a dashboard and everything around that. I did something similar when I worked at MongoDB. We used like Stitch on the back end and did like a similar thing. But what else? Yeah, but like this one was definitely the easiest one to kind of throw together, especially using Typeform as the front end, and then pulling in our existing integrations with Twilio and SendGrid. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's take us back to here. So we've about hit our time. I want to thank Lizze for taking time out of her busy Signal schedule. Is there anything that you're excited about that's coming up with Signal that people should watch out for?
Obama speaking tomorrow. That's
yes, that was impressive.
Yeah, same with Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
I loved the keynote this morning. I thought like it was really well done. I didn't know what to expect for a virtual event, honestly. Loved Jeff's energy. He had some good stickers on his laptop. I was like, I have the same one.
I have that. Yeah. So you're doing a lot of streaming for this conference. Like I know that you have announced Twilio TV. What's the next event? What's the next event that someone can see you streaming for Signal?
You need a paid pass for what I'm doing in like 40 minutes.
Okay.
It's for Superclass, our online training day. But next one, I'll be on twitch.tv/Twilio tomorrow at roughly 11:30 around this time.
Nice.
PST.
And then you also stream under your own name, right? So where can we find you on the internet, streaming, Twitter, what have you?
Yes, I am dropping some links. You can find me on Twitch, usually Thursdays, 11:30 a.m. PST, around noon, I guess. I have a lot of guests. Aydrian, you shall be on.
I'll do it. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes. It's called Great Hair Code Share. That's like a weekly show. Some live coding, mainly like walking through some app, maybe play around with the code library. The sky's the limit. I had our CIO, Michelle Gerber, on a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. What is time?
Nice. Well, thank you for joining me. I think we did it. So thank you all for joining in and seeing how it is. Again, you can go to the website that is below and try out this app. Please fill it out, and then join us next Friday, I believe, for the fireside chat with Troy and Pat. It should be interesting. And but until then, again, thank you, Lizzie, and to all y'all out there, bye.
Thank you, Aydrian. Thank you all.
Yeah.